Being stuck sometimes is a function of just not knowing what to do, right? And when we get into that state, we get into a state where we just don't do anything because we don't know what to do. And then that looks like procrastination. And sometimes you might think it is because then you then go on to do other things like maybe other activities that are important but not necessarily urgent or not the most important thing, whilst you leave the most important thing on the side and never get round to it. This is something I faced with my PhD. This is part of a series to do with getting unstuck, which I'm going through many different phases and many different examples of being unstuck in order to help you get unstuck. If you like the series, go ahead and follow the playlist, which will be linked in the description or the pinned comment. Let's move on. So, in my situation with my PhD, I've often felt stuck because when I thought about it again, it was that I didn't know how to progress or I didn't know how to write something. I didn't know what was expected of me in my literature review or what even is a theoretical framework which I'm supposed to base my work on. I was in the class when I was taught this, but somehow it didn't quite stick. Or maybe it stuck, but then when I tried to implement it, it didn't quite go as planned. And then I just sit there in front of a blank page, just looking and wondering, okay, what do I do now? I just stare at it. What do I do now? And before I know it, I move on to something else because, hey, I'm not making progress. I don't know what to do. If you ever find yourself in that situation, sometimes it may not be PhD, it may be something else. Well, I'm hoping this video will be for you and this video will help you get unstuck. So let me read out an example. And then from that, I'm going to tell you about maybe 4 or 5 solutions that could help you with getting unstuck. If you're up for it, let's keep going. So here I say being stuck is often a function of not knowing what to do. When we don't know what to do, we do nothing, or we do other things, which often is looked at as procrastination. Then we get to a state of panic where there is a deadline looming and we don't know what to do, or we just do a half job, and then realize we could have at least done a better job had we just started earlier. This tells me that there are maybe a few tools even in that problem that we could develop to help us make progress. So let me go through the first one. The first one, if you don't know what to do, the issue is you don't know what to do. So the next step would be to gain clarity. Now, how do you go about gaining clarity? There are a few things. First of all, you could do some online research. So search online, look for YouTube videos, look for maybe blog posts or news articles, people who've written about what you're going through, and see if you can glean from that some clarity, some steps that people have gone through to get there. Then you could also leverage large language models, LLMs, like ChatGPT, like Claude.ai, and all the other ones that exist. Put in your question there and let it give you an answer. Or better still, get it to write you a model answer. I wouldn't necessarily do a copy and paste thing, particularly if you're working on your PhD, but it can be useful for helping you get unstuck and just understand what's expected of you. Another thing for me as well, just a side note, which is quite specific to the PhD, is to actually look at the rubric. So oftentimes when you have an assessment to do at university in particular, there is a mark scheme which is called a rubric. So find the rubric, put it into ChatGPT, and then say, create a guide for me based on this rubric for writing my literature review or writing my theoretical framework. Try it out. Let me know if it helps you. It's something that I'm trying out recently, and I think it's helping me. I went on to look at the rubric for another university because I couldn't find the one for my university initially. And I put that in, and as well as put in my first attempt at a literature review at some point. And he then told me the parts that were missing and the parts that could be better. And I thought, maybe there are other ways I could do this better. So that's a tip for you there. Okay, beyond that though, you could actually find somebody online who's walked the walk that you are looking for. So if you have something you're struggling with, check on YouTube. Maybe somebody has already spoken about it and spoken about the steps that they took. Maybe that could be the thing that helps you and helps you get unstuck. Beyond that, you could pay for help. So that could be in the form of a coach. So somebody who knows what to do. Maybe they've been there before and they've guided other people through that process. You could find a coach to help you make progress and to help you know the things that you don't know. Sometimes we struggle because there are unknown unknowns. So you don't even know what you don't know. And so you can't even help yourself look for it. So a coach could help with that. Beyond that, we've also got paying for professional help. There's some times when you just have to delegate it. For example, when it comes to accounting for my business, there's only so much I can do, and there's only so much I would know to find out on social media or on YouTube or any search engine. So the best thing is really to hire an accountant to help me deal with stuff. There was a time when there was some discrepancy between the software I was using for my bookkeeping and my accounts, my bank accounts, and that was causing an issue when it came to doing the end of year tax returns. So what did I do? My initial accountant said they couldn't handle that. And I said, fine. I looked up other accountants, explained my problem, and then one came back to me and said they could look into it and solve it for me within the tool that I was using. And they did that. And so sometimes you do have to pay if you need to get unstuck. And yes, payment, people don't like paying for things. But at the end of the day, if paying saves you weeks on end of procrastination, it's probably worth it. Okay, so that's the first one. Gain clarity. The next one is, if you know that looming deadlines sort of kickstart you into getting work done, maybe we need to manufacture those deadlines, but have interim deadlines. That way you don't have the final deadline that you're working towards and then you're you get into a state of being frazzled when you realize you don't have enough time and a deadline is looming. So here are a few things we can do. First of all, you could have a public commitment. Now it could be public to many people, maybe on your social media, or public in terms of somebody else who you're accountable to. And what you could do there is not only let them know when you have or haven't done what you said you would do. So first of all, you need to create a plan of what you're going to do, and then get them to actually check on you and check that you're doing it. But beyond that, you could actually raise the stakes. If you know that you're going to have to pay this person a certain amount if you don't make progress, that might motivate you to make the progress. I know for some people, payment is a really big thing, and it is for many people, and even for me, it is. So knowing that I'm going to have to pay somebody if I don't make progress, and we're going to look at breaking it down into tangible pieces, so small pieces such that the progress can be measured. If I don't make that progress, I pay someone something, oh, I'm going to make progress, even if it's not the greatest work. I'll talk about that actually. Doing good enough rather than making it perfect. But we'll continue that later in the video. Stick around for that. Okay, beyond that, you can set internal deadlines. But my issue with internal deadlines is that it's quite easy to let myself off the hook. So if I tell myself, okay, by the end of this week, I'm going to have to finish this. If the end of this week comes and I haven't done it, it's quite easy for me to give myself the excuse of, oh, stuff came up, I didn't have enough time. But that's not right. That's not right. So I need to figure out a way to not do that. And so the way to do that is to externalize it by working with a friend or somebody who you can be accountable to. I hope that's making sense so far. Let's keep going. Okay. So I've mentioned public commitments. Beyond that, you could also have an accountability partner. Now, that accountability partner could play different roles. They could be that person to just ask you if you're making progress. And because you know you have to report back, it keeps the thing that you need to work on at the forefront of your mind. And so you remember that. But beyond that, they could also be somebody who can help you talk through the issues you're facing and possibly help you get unstuck by listening to you and pointing out areas where you could try other options. So that could be good for if you have somebody in your life that could help you with that, that could be really amazing. Beyond that, you could also speak to somebody who can help you, maybe with actually having work sessions where you sit down and work together, either virtually, so maybe on a Zoom call or a Teams meeting or Google Meet, or maybe just over a WhatsApp call, to somebody sitting right in front of you face to face like this. And you work together either on your issue or you work independently, but you just end up for that hour or for those 30 minutes, you guys are working on something that needs to be done. Doing it that way can also make sure that you actually take the step. So almost it puts an artificial deadline because you know, okay, for those 30 minutes or that hour, you have to work on that project. And then the other thing as well is to tell yourself, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do a bad job. The important thing is that I do it, right? So sometimes we don't realize that what we see as greatness or perfection came from many levels of bad work being done. So in order to make sure that you just get the work done and make progress with it, tell yourself, okay, you know what? I'm going to create a bad draft. I'm going to write it. It's not going to be great. But then once you've done that, you get the ideas out of your head and onto paper. You can see it, you can interact with it, and then give yourself the opportunity to tweak and make things better. But if you start off with the idea of perfection, and many times we don't realize that's what we're starting off with. But if you start off with the idea of perfection and just, I want to get it right and do it the right way, oftentimes we're not going to be able to get it. In another video, I talked about a class where students were told to make different pots, and one was told to make a perfect pot. The other group was told to make multiple pots. When they came to assess the results, they found that the group that made multiple pots actually ended up making the better pots than those who made just one pot and tried to make it perfect. So the idea is practice makes progress, not perfect, progress. Remember that. Remember I said that. Remember I told you that. Okay. All right, let's keep moving. So beyond that, so we've already talked about creating artificial deadlines, things to help you just jumpstart the work and get things started. That's an artificial deadline kickstart there. There's another kickstart tool I'm going to mention at the end, but let's keep going. So the next one is reducing distraction. One of the things that you found in that example that I gave you was that the person decided to move on to do other jobs or other things because they just didn't know what to do here and just thought, okay, let me do something else. And it might look like productivity, but it's actually still productive procrastination, where you're doing other things that could be important, but not the thing that you need to be working on. So in order to combat that, what you could do is remove all distractions and tell yourself you have to work on the thing that you said you're going to work on. Even if you sit down on that desk and you do nothing else, you still have to do that. Now, in doing that, make sure that even if you get bored, you still get the work done. I hope that's making sense so far. So just reduce the distractions. Don't do other things. Say for that hour, you're going to sit down and make it a constant habit. Even if the first hour you don't do it, you do it another day. The second hour you don't get it done. By the third day, you try that out. You will get at least something done. You don't want to just feel like you're wasting 3 hours doing absolutely nothing. But yeah, removing distractions could help a lot. Then finally is kickstart. So sometimes we just face the inertia of starting. That could literally be it. So what you need to do is, what I do to help me is something called the Pomodoro method, but I do change it a little bit. So Pomodoro method talks about working in 20-minute bursts. So you set a timer for 20 minutes and say, okay, within those 20 minutes, I'm going to work on this project, and then take a break, maybe for 5 minutes, and then 5 or 10 minutes, and then maybe 5 minutes actually, and then move on to the next one, 20, 25 minutes, something like that. But that doesn't work as well for me. What works for me is to set a timer, definitely, but set it for a lower length, so maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes. If I'm feeling particularly distracted, I start with 5 minutes. And then by the end of those 5, 10, 15 minutes, I find that I sort of get into the groove and I can keep going with the work I'm doing and the work that needs to be done. But sometimes all I need is just something to jumpstart me. So try that, let me know how it works. And at the end of the 15 minutes, you could decide not to continue with it. Or if you've gotten into the groove, just continue. Use that groove and keep going. So that's what I would recommend there. And those are tools I would say you could use to help yourself get unstuck in a situation where you feel like you just don't know what to do. And just to recap for you, I mentioned there were 4, broad categories of getting unstuck with this. So first would be to gain clarity. The second would be to create artificial deadlines to help move you forward. The third would be to reduce distractions so you're not doing other things and you just focus on the thing you're meant to be doing. And then the fourth would be to kickstart your work by introducing a timer into your workflow such that you know that at least for the time duration that you set, you actually get something done. Let me know if this helps you, by the way. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments if this helps you. And then I'm going to try and create a special gift for everybody who's gotten this far in the video. It should be in the description or the pinned comment. If I haven't put it by the time this video is up, let me know and I will do so. But I just thought I'd share that with you. I think it's very important to try and figure out ways to get unstuck. I'm still on this journey of getting unstuck, particularly with my PhD, but not just with my PhD, with other things in business. I'm trying to get to a point where I get to higher levels of income with the business that I do. But sometimes it can prove quite tricky. So the idea is, okay, I've written these ideas down. There are things I know about getting unstuck. It's now time for me to implement them. So for you, let me know what you get stuck on. and how you plan to get unstuck. Let me know if you're going to use any of the tools I mentioned. Also, if you have already gotten unstuck in something, please share in the comments, because then we can all learn from each other and we can all get unstuck and achieve greater things than what we even thought was possible. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. In the meantime, check out the other videos that are going to appear on your screen, probably right here where my face is, or somewhere up here or up here. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering where I am, I'm currently on a cruise ship. I just thought I'd record a video right here, beat procrastination. But let me just give you a quick 360 tour of where I am. I'm currently in a sort of lobby area, and here where they're advertising future cruises. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you. It's quite late in the morning. The time right now is, let's see, 4:29 a.m. And the boat is currently on its way to France, I believe. But yes, that's where I am. In case you were just wondering, what is this different background that you're seeing and what's all the noise going on? That's what's going on. All right, don't ask me why I'm up this early or this late. I haven't actually slept this evening, but I just find working at night, I'm able to get more things done and just concentrate better. So that's why I'm up. Anyway, gotta go. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.